You're listening to Quiet Horizons, a podcast of original science fiction stories written for the hours when the day is done. From here, there are no interruptions, just one complete story, beginning to end. Literary, unhurried, and best experienced with your eyes closed. Tonight's story begins now.
The Slow Light. There is a headland at the end of a road that most maps have stopped bothering to name. The road runs out of confidence about a mile before it gets there, narrows to one lane, then to gravel, then to two ruts in the grass, and finally just gives up and becomes the headland itself. At the end of it, there is a small white light on a short iron tower, and beside the light there is a stone cottage with a green door, and inside the cottage, most evenings, there is me. I have kept this light for 31 years. It is not an important light. I want to be honest about that from the start. The big lighthouses, the famous ones, the ones people drive for hours to photograph. Those guard the dangerous water, the wrecking rocks, the harbour mouths where the freighters come and go. My light does none of that. My light marks a small shoal a little way offshore, a patch of shallow water that would only ever trouble a fishing boat coming home late and tired and cutting the corner. In all my years here, I doubt my light has saved more than a handful of keels from a scrape. It is a modest light for a modest danger at the end of a road that has forgotten its own name. But it comes on every night. That is the thing about it. Whatever else is true, whatever kind of day it has been, when the sun goes down, my light comes on, and it turns, slow and patient. And it says the same thing it has always said to anyone out on that water. It says, here is the edge. It says, this far and no further. It says, I am still here, and so are you, and the night is not as empty as it feels. I light it by hand, still, though I am not required to. There is an automatic switch now, fitted years ago by a young man from the Maritime Authority, who was very kind and very thorough, and clearly thought I was a relic. The switch works perfectly. I have simply never used it. Every evening I climb the 11 steps of the little tower, and I throw the lever myself, and I stand for a moment while the lamp warms and the lens begins to turn. And then I go back down and put the kettle on. It is not nostalgia. It is just that a thing done by hand is done with attention, and attention, I have come to believe, is most of what we have to give the world. This evening was an ordinary one until it wasn't. The light came on at 8:20, the sky doing that long, slow business it does in early autumn, the gold going to rose, going to a deep, soft grey that is not quite dark. I had the kettle on and was watching the water from the kitchen window when I saw someone on the path. You do get walkers, even out here. The coastal trail comes over the headland, and a few hardy souls follow it all the way to the end before they realize there is nowhere further to go and they have to turn around. But this one was not dressed for walking. A young woman, city shoes, a coat too thin for the wind, standing very still at the place where the path runs out, looking at the water as though it had asked her a question she could not answer. I have learned over 31 years the difference between a person who has come to the end of the road on purpose and a person who has come to the end of the road because they ran out of road. She was the second kind. So I did what you do. I opened the green door and I said, the kettle is on if you would like some. She turned, and she had the careful face of someone who has been holding something together for a long time and is very tired of holding it. She said she did not want to be any trouble. I told her the truth, which is that company at the end of the world is never trouble. It is the rarest thing there is. And she came in. I did not ask her what had brought her there. That is the other thing you learn. People will tell you what they need to tell you if you simply leave a quiet space open and do not rush to fill it. So I made the tea, and I put out the good biscuits, the ones I keep for no particular occasion, and we sat by the window and watched my small light turn. After a while she said, what does it do, the light? And I told her about the shoal and the fishing boats and the modest danger and the handful of keels. I told her it was not an important light. And she looked at it for a long moment, turning out there in the gathering dark, steady and unhurried, and she said something I have been thinking about ever since. She said, but it doesn't know that, does it? It just comes on. It just comes on. I have kept a light for 31 years, and it took a tired stranger in the wrong shoes to tell me what it was for. Because she was right. The light does not know it is unimportant. The light does not weigh up whether the danger is worth the effort, or whether anyone is out there to see it, or whether tonight, of all nights, it might reasonably take the evening off. It simply comes on, and it turns, and it says it's one steady thing into the dark, and whether that saves a great ship or a small boat or no one at all, it has done the thing it is for. It has been a light. The being is the point. The shining is the point. We sat with that for a while, the two of us, and somewhere in the sitting, the thing she had been holding together seemed to loosen a little, the way a knot loosens when you stop pulling on it. She did not tell me her trouble, and I did not need her to. We just watched the light, and drank the tea, and let the dark come down soft around the cottage, and after a time she said she thought she could find her way back now. I walked her to the place where the ruts become gravel, becomes the proper road, and I pointed her the right way, and before she went, she looked back at the light one more time, and she smiled, and the smile was lighter than the face had been. "Take care," I said, and she said, "You too." And then she was gone up the dark road, and I stood and watched until I could not see her any more, and then I went back to my cottage, and my kettle, and my modest, unimportant, perfectly faithful light. I am telling you this because I think a great many of us worry, in the quiet hours, that we are small lights, that what we do does not amount to much, that the danger we guard against is minor, that the road to us has forgotten its own name. We measure ourselves against the great lighthouses, and we find ourselves wanting. But I have kept a light for 31 years, and I can tell you that the size of the light was never the thing. The thing was that it came on. The thing was that someone, somewhere out in the dark and the cold and the wrong shoes, looked up and saw a steady point of warmth at the edge of the world and understood that they were not as alone as they had feared. You do not have to be a great light. You only have to be a faithful one. You only have to come on each evening and turn and say your one steady thing into the night. It is 9:20 now, and the water is black and calm, and my light is turning out there the way it always does, slow and patient and sure. I think I will leave the good biscuits out a little longer, just in case, and then I will climb my 11 steps one more time before bed. Not to do anything, the light needs nothing from me now, but only to stand beside it for a moment in the dark. Two small faithful things at the end of a road with no name, shining anyway. Sleep well. The light is on. It will be on tomorrow too.
As we reach the end of tonight's journey, I hope these quiet horizons have brought you a deep sense of peace and calm. Let your body grow heavy, your breathing slow and steady, and your mind drift gently into rest. Good night, dear listener. Sleep well, and I'll see you again on the next horizon.